I'm Ruth Dalton, and I've been asked today to talk about rare breeds for Woolfest, which I was absolutely delighted to do. So we're standing here at Whinpot Farm, which my partner and I have managed since 2004. And we've done this primarily to benefit wildlife and the environment, whilst rearing really good quality, high welfare livestock. So rare breeds are integral to that. And we have cattle, we also have sheep. So the cattle are Shetland cattle, and we have Whitefaced Woodland and Manx Loaghtans sheep, which I'll tell you a little bit more about today. So this is our stock tup, our main ram, and he's called Cameron, Keys Hill Cameron. And we were really lucky to get Cameron because he was living, he's a rather special boy, he was living on a farm called Mudshoot Farm and Park in London on the Isle of Dogs. So although he was bred in Derbyshire, he actually lived for a few years in London, and I think when we first let him off in this field when he came back to us one autumn, he was quite pleased to see stone walls and green fields again. So the Whitefaced Woodland, as you can see, it's a big strong breed for a hill breed, quite a lot of bone, quite thick legs, big broad mouth, strong horns. Big broad mouth that eats a variety of vegetation. Sheep are quite selective grazers, and as people trying to manage land for conservation as well as farming, we want a breed that'll eat our thistles or our docks and a wide variety of even the coarser grasses. So he's not so highly trained that I can get him to stand here and eat rush for you, but they are a really good breed for eating a wide variety of things. And I have to say, we do have some crossbred sheep as well. And it was really noticeable in the winter that the Whitefaced Woodland sheep would all be in a flock at the top of the hill, and the crossbred sheep would be down the bottom of the hill. So, you know, they're supremely hardy, really strong sheep, excellent crossing sheep as well. Don't break the camera, Cameron, wouldn't go down well. Right, I think we're going to take the halter off you now, mate. It's always interesting with horns. I'm glad he hasn't got his full width and spiral, though. He was very beautiful. He doesn't really need to be on a halter, does he? The Whitefaced Woodland is a breed from the South Pennines, from Derbyshire. The woodland part of the name is actually referring to a village in that area. And the Whitefaced Woodland and the Penistone, another village there, used to be two slightly different breeds of sheep, which were mixed together and are now known as the Whitefaced Woodland. They were bred primarily in those days, hundreds of years ago. Wool was worth an awful lot of money, so these had a very, very lovely fine fleece, and in fact unusually fine for a hill breed. Hill breeds usually have quite harsh fleece to keep the weather out, but in common with the Derbyshire Gritstone, the Whitefaced Woodland actually was known for its fleece, and that was a primary part of its market, if you like. It's thought that there was an infusion by the Duke of Devonshire of merino blood into the Whitefaced Woodland a couple of hundred years ago, and that's given it that lovely fineness to the wool. I would say that in following with commercial practice, where they're farmed much more commercially in larger numbers in the Derbyshire Dales and in the Peak District, you will find Whitefaced Woodlands with a closer, tighter fleece, which is better for keeping out the weather and suits the commercial market better. So you see that range. Thank you. You see that range in the breed of those that have a kind of tighter, closer commercial fleece and those that have a more open, fine fleece, which suits the hand spinning market better. So we've got a couple of fleeces here from our Whitefaced Woodland shearling rams. So they're the ones that are a year old. And I picked these ones especially out because the shearling fleece is the fleece, obviously they've grown since they were a lamb. So it's generally thought of as being the nicest fleece. So I've really no idea. I'm really learning about wool and about raw fleece. So a very kind lady's spinning some of this up for me to see how it turns out. It's supposed to take dye really well as well. So she's going to change it by dyeing it different colours. So I think what we're really looking at here is where you can see that the fibres are coming apart quite nicely. That'll make a nice fine fleece. Whereas right at the end here, we've got dear old Cameron's fleece, the old tup, which is really good, I'm afraid, only for the compost heap because it's full of kemp, which is the really harsh fibres that you wouldn't want to wear next to your skin. It would be really, really scratchy. Having said that, the kemp is very light and hollow, so it's incredibly warm, and in terms of a tweed type material, that would be fine. But no, Casper's enormous Cameron's enormous fleece is just going to go on the compost heap. So this is our second rare breed, the Manx Loaghtans, completely different from the Whitefaced Woodland. These are actually part of a group of breeds called primitive sheep or North Atlantic short-tailed sheep. So they're related to breeds like the Hebridean and the Shetland. They originate from the Isle of Man, as the name suggests. And I was incredibly lucky to be given these two ewes. There's another one out there with 4 horns. So they come in 2, 4 and occasionally even with 6 horns. So the primitive characteristics of these breeds, which originated around the North Atlantic, not only in... They're clever, you know, sheep. People say they're stupid, but they're not. They originated around the North Atlantic, so you find primitive sheep in Scandinavia as well. They tend to be small, fine-boned, with a variety of fleece colorations, and generally naturally short tails, which hence the North Atlantic short-tailed sheep. So the Manx itself, a few hundred years ago, would have come in a huge range of colours. So they record that they came in black and white, and this colour known as moorit, which means this kind of brown colour. And Loaghtans, of the Manx Loaghtans, actually means mouse brown in Manx, so that's the name of the breed, has come from this colour that got fixed really in the early 1900s by a chap called John Caesar Bacon. We're getting photobombed by Whitefaced Woodlands. So John Caesar Bacon took the last remaining Manx Loaghtans, which had become really unpopular with commercial farming, and the enclosure of common land on the Isle of Man, which really saw a whole range of Manx breeds go extinct. And it was really only due to one man that the Manx was saved. And John Caesar Bacon decided that he preferred this moorit coloration. And because it's recessive, which means that if you cross a moorit sheep with a white sheep or a black sheep, you will get a white sheep or a black sheep. The moorit is recessive in terms of colour genetics to those two. The moorit colour became fixed quite quickly in the breed, and now you'll find that all Manx Loaghtans are this beautiful kind of sandy brown colour. It's a really attractive, lovely wool for hand spinners as well. I like them as a breed because they are quite calm and docile. She's a very friendly sheep, and they have a fantastic carcass actually. For a primitive breed, they do produce lovely lamb. You have to wait till they're about 15 or 18 months old. Are you going to be friendly? She says, no, I've got a pile of nuts here actually. And in terms of their wool, they can shed it naturally. So the other sheep that we've got has shed hers. This ewe's hanging on to hers. They lamb incredibly easy. They're brilliant mothers. They've got loads of milk for a lamb, so they rear a fantastic lamb. And they're naturally very resistant to fly strike, which is a condition a sheep can get when a fly lays its eggs in a sheep's fleece, and it can be fatal for the sheep when they hatch into maggots. So they're resistant to fly strike, really good feet, naturally shedding fleece, but also a fleece of high value and high quality, and naturally docile disposition. So all in all, a very good choice. So one of the things that really frustrates me is the sentence people come out with where they go, oh, rare breeds, they're rare for a reason. And it's completely untrue, because a lot of our previously rare breeds are now commercially very popular, such as the Jacob, the Hebridean, the Longhorn. Loads of breeds that people think of as rare haven't been rare for a very long time, for good reason, because they're generally excellent at converting pasture into meat and wool. They're really easy to look after. They were bred when we didn't have vets at our beck and call, and we didn't have lots of drugs we could use on our animals, so they do very well in our climate and on our vegetation with very low inputs, and that's the way farming is going to have to go in the future. So I think that the products we get from these rare and native breeds are super. They deserve bigger recognition. I've been really pleased to be able to talk about these two breeds today.